Welcome everyone to an exciting discussion on Ayurveda and modern nutraceutical science and how we can create evidence-based effective nutraceutical formulations and dietary supplements. We often see Ayurveda and modern nutraceutical science that they are discussed separately. Often we feel that they are diverse and seldom aligned. But I think this is the opportunity we would like to take and see where the Ayurvedic science and modern nutraceutical science, they merge together, where they are able to, give a synergistic effect, and when they digress. And to make this discussion effective, I have two exceptional experts today on the panel, and I would like to introduce them both. So, first, I would start with Dr. Vaidya Ashlesha Raut, an esteemed Ayurvedic physician and researcher with deep expertise in holistic healing and Ayurveda based formulations. She has done her master's into Ayurvedic formulations, and she is the director of Ayurveda for Healing and Panchakarma Wellness Center at Illinois. And she holds leadership roles into Ayurveda education and certification courses. So, a warm welcome, Dr. Ashlesha.
Thank you, Dr. Shefali, and thank you for having me. And nice to meet
Yeah,
you, Dr. Bruno. Hello.
Nice to meet you as well.
yeah. And now let me introduce Dr. Jean Bruno, a 45 plus years veteran in dietary supplement industry with a doctorate in botanical medicine, a master's degree in herbal medicine and nutrition, and extensive expertise in regulatory compliances and formulation science. So I welcome you both today on this interesting and very exciting panel discussion. And let's get started. So let's begin today with the core concept of bioavailability. And Dr. Bruno, you will agree with me that bioavailability has been a buzzword lately in the nutraceutical industry, right?
It
And
really has, yeah.
actually, and that's something which modern science has been constantly working on to improve bioavailability of so many molecules, and the same science being applied to nutraceutical science. But how does Ayurveda, the ancient science, looks at this modern concept? Let's explore it. So my first question is to you, Dr. Bruno. The dietary supplement industry has evolved significantly over the years. And what excites you most about it, and where do you feel that it is headed to?
When I've given that very topic a lot of thought, and I have to tell you, when I started out in this industry in 1979, you could speak to a consumer, you could speak to somebody in the public, and they would seemingly just about believe anything. And as long as it was written somewhere, doesn't really matter how credible the source was, they would tend to believe it. I think that's a lot to do with my generation, the baby boomer generation. We're just simply willing to believe everything. Now, over the years, I've seen it progress in a direction that I'm very happy about. And I think a lot of it has to do with the younger generation. A lot of them want to see some proof. They're not just always willing to take somebody's word for it. They want to see the data. And I love that. And so one of the things I'm seeing now is there's a lot more scientific research, human clinical research being done on herbs and other nutraceuticals, where they're demonstrating effectiveness, demonstrating safety. And I see this now more than ever. And what's exciting to me is I'm seeing members of the public and consumers looking for some of that information. Not all of them, but a lot of them. And it seems almost like the younger they are, the more they want to see some proof. And I love that. I love the fact that that is giving our industry more credibility because you're getting more science, more studies behind it. So I see that as the direction we're heading. That's what excites me so much. And yeah, some of it's because part of my job involves coordinating clinical studies. So certainly I'm happy about that. But I think this bodes well for herbal medicine and the dietary supplement industry in general.
That's really interesting, and I do agree with you. I mean, nutraceutical products getting constantly substantiated with clinical research, and I think that's very crucial. Something we call evidence-based science, and I think that is the need of the time as well. When the common population is getting constantly exposed to uh, the medical science, which is based on evidence. So applying the same principles for nutraceuticals, definitely very interesting, and I think we have a great future there. My question to Dr. Raut is, Ayurveda has used several ingredients since centuries, which we now know to be bioavailability enhancers. So, can you tell us what does Ayurveda say about piperine-containing formulations? So, how is it used in Ayurveda? Because I think personally that the evidence, what you said, Dr. Bruno, the actually evidence has initiated centuries back, not even decades, obviously, centuries back from our traditional sciences. And that's what we are here today for, to understand how the evidence or what evidence we can get from the traditional science. So, Dr. Raut, can you please tell us something about the piperine and its role in the formulations in
Yeah,
as per
sure.
Ayurveda?
Absolutely. And, basically, I would like to tell you here that Ayurveda does not categorize the health benefits of the herbs based on its active principles, right? It is
Okay,
basically contained always understand as a whole plant and or the whole herb, right? So there are many such herbs. The very two prominent one are long pepper, which is a piper longum, and the black pepper. But interestingly, they are seldomly used as a single ingredient, right? They are always in the
interesting.
formulations. And one of the very common formulation, or which is used very commonly, which is known as tricketu, which you would see that they have, it's like a black pepper, it is long pepper, black pepper, and also the powder of dry ginger powder. And so it is always in the combination. Does it make sense? So the role of
Absolutely.
these herbs are definitely vary depending upon how the formulation is being used, or it is very well uh, definitely indicated for the greater absorption. So I would, in Ayurvedically, we look differently more than as an absorption aspect. We more try to enhance the digestive fire. And that's how these herbs are utilized. So that's ultimately yes for the greater
Yeah,
absorption.
so definitely it's interesting that to know that Ayurveda believes in using whole herbs and piperine containing herbs in the combination. So that's interesting to know. So my next question to you, Dr. Raut, is that Ayurveda often takes a very cautionary approach to herbal formulations, right? So we don't simply take any two herbs and we combine it together. Correct, because there is a science behind, and very Ayurveda devises the formulations in a very well thought out manner. Correct. So, what do you
Absolutely.
think? Uh, are there any specific limitations or risks that Ayurveda has mentioned for piperine containing herbs? Does
Yes,
Ayurveda specifically talk about like piperine containing herbs? Yeah.
absolutely. And I mean, that's really a important aspect we should take a look at, right? And when we deep dive into Ayurveda's, all these ancient scriptures, there is a lot, which leaves us completely awestruck. And I would like to tell you about Charaka Samhita, which is one of the treatises in Ayurveda, and we consider it as a Bible of Ayurveda, right? And in that
Absolutely.
the chapter, there are sections, and in the Vimanasthana section, and in that also in the first chapter, Acharya Charaka, who is the writer of this Charaka Samhita, the master Ayurvedic, and he mentions about the piperine contained herb, and specifically about the piper longum. And he explains the uses, and rather he gives the caution. And he
Oh,
very
that's
clearly
interesting.
mentions, yes, he very clearly mentions that it can be used with any other thing, but should be only in limited time and limited amount. So this is very specifically mentioned. At the same time, one interesting thing I want to share with you here, and I'm sure Dr. Bruno will be also appreciate this, that in the same verse, he further explains that Pipali or the Piper longum is a Yogavahi. So what is the meaning of Yogavahi? Yogavahi means it takes the other herbs which are with it to deeper inside the body, somewhere where it is supposed to be giving the action, right? So if
Wow.
you think this way, in conventionally, we understand exactly this is as a bioavailability, isn't it? So it
Absolutely.
further gives the more strength to take this inside. So my point is that absolutely it is necessary. I mean, it has given in that sense. At the same time, he also mentions that he gives that yes, it is good, but he mentions that limited dosage and for limited time it should be used. Otherwise, it has a capacity to accumulate doshas. So what is doshas? Doshas are the what we call it as biological energies, and Ayurvedic physiology, Ayurvedic pathology, everything revolves around the doshas. There are three doshas you might have heard. I mean, of course, Dr. Shefali, you know that, but
Absolutely.
I wanted to bring this forward, and this is a clear caution given in one of the very important textbook of Ayurveda.
This is like fantastic, and oh, it gives such a nice insight in such simple words in today's language about what has been told several thousand years back, and with such amazing clarity. I mean, I'm really amazed at this. Dr. Bruno, coming to you, nowadays we see that so many turmeric formulations, they often use piperine, and there are advices, where even common people say, oh, turmeric, you should take it with piperine. So, uh, what do you think that from scientific perspective, is it always necessary to use piperine for enhancing bioavailability of turmeric, or are there any other ways and means? So, what are your views on it from modern nutraceutical science perspective?
Sure. So let me start out by saying that um, you know the active curcuminoid compounds in turmeric tends to have fairly poor bioavailability. Now, it depends on the study you look at, but if you look at some animal research, you can see anywhere from 40 to 75% of the curcuminoids just passing through the digestive tract unchanged. Um, and so it has very fast metabolic turnover in the liver and the intestinal wall, and fairly low tissue distribution following oral dosing. Um, so what does all this mean? All this means that there is a rationale, in fact, for doing something to enhance the bioavailability of turmeric. Um, but to your question, does it have to be piperine? Oh, absolutely, it does not need to be. There are other kinds of technologies. Some are microencapsulation technologies, such as biosinads or phytosomes. Um, and then there are ones that are involved in the dispersibility. They're using a dispersibility technology, such as in Term Extra, which is one of my personal favorite that I formulate with quite a bit. But something I think is necessary if you want to get good bioavailability, but that something does not, in fact, have to be piperine.
Okay, that really answers my question, and also a great insight into, like, about much talked combination of turmeric and piperine. And now my next question is to Dr. Raut. So, Dr. Raut, Ayurveda traditionally recommends like combination of herbs, right, for enhanced efficacy and for a better effect. So, for turmeric, as far as turmeric is concerned, are there any ideal pairings? Because I also wanted to understand if turmeric piperine, what kind of a pairing it is, and what does Ayurveda tell us about it? Some insight into it?
Sure. So this is really a great question. I should, before I answer your question, I must tell you that Ayurveda does recommend various herbs to be combined. At the same time, there is a very specific, method, or it is a very specification. The pairing is depend upon two major things. One, obviously, the intent why we are using that herb, right? Why we are using that formulation, and then the second one is that the specific attributes of those herbs which are to be combined. And so, coming to the question of pairing, I would definitely say that there are turmeric specifically. It can be definitely paired with herbs which are more as a what I can call it as an adaptogenic effect. It is very well
Okay.
paired with that. Now, coming to turmeric and piperine, which you were talking about, right? And as Dr. Bruno also mentioned, at least Ayurveda definitely does not recommend turmeric in combination with piperine. I mean, I cannot say piperine directly, but piperine containing herbs. And I already mentioned in my earlier answer that tricatu, the formulation tricatu, which has two main piperine containing herbs, piper longum and black pepper, right? And so I really don't think it has even mentioned that pairing it with tricatu. So simply turmeric and simply tricatu are not paired anywhere in Ayurveda.
Wow, that's again interesting insight. So I think we are really getting lot of knowledge and understanding about this particular combination, which has been talked a lot. So this is about probably about enhancing bioavailability and gaining, trying to get more efficacy out of turmeric. But Dr. Bruno, my question is to you that there have been a lot of discussions about the turmeric's potential impact on the liver. So, what does modern research tell about it, and how much research basically has been done on it, and what's the whole buzzword, or I can say what the whole discussion has been about?
Yes, good question. So you see it every few years something comes out where a some type of a study will be done, and some type of a study that is directly or indirectly interpreted as being negative towards a nutraceutical, often an herb, and then the media will get a hold of it and misrepresent it, and then people hear that and say, "Oh, these things are bad for you." So the latest of the batch is a study that was done in August and published in JAMA Network. And
Okay.
to be clear, this was a study based on a cohort from the National Health and Nutrition Examination Survey, or NHANES. Now, the authors of the study they said that turmeric, green tea, Garcinia cambogia, black cohosh, red yeast rice, and, wait for it, ashwagandha could be associated with liver toxicity. Okay, now, to be clear, this is a survey which, at best, at very best, can suggest a relationship, but not causation. You want to show causation, you need to do a human clinical trial where you have controls in place and you could show that that relationship is in fact not just that, but causation. That's not what happened here. These are people filling out surveys and putting down what they say that they're consuming, which anybody that's been in clinical practice knows what a challenge it can be just to even get somebody to remember what they ate the day before or for the week, let alone over a period of many months. So so let's look at that first. And also, when you look at the survey, any of these people could have been using hepatotoxic drugs, even something as simple as Tylenol, or they could be involved in various lifestyle practices that negatively impact their liver health. And again, many of these herbs turmeric included, have been safely used for thousands of years. And the irony to this, for me, of the conclusions that turmeric could be, at risk for liver toxicity, is that turmeric itself has been shown to have hepatoprotective effects. It's been shown to reduce fatty liver. It's been shown to have antioxidant and anti-inflammatory effects, which could protect the liver from oxidative damage. So, what I like to suggest is when we hear something that comes out in media, we hear about a new study, something that gets reported, what you have to do is take a good look at the methodology, look at the totality of research, because no single study tells you everything. And when you look at that, my belief is you'll likely come to the conclusion that turmeric, if used appropriately, if used in the forms and the amounts shown in human clinical research and shown in Ayurvedic medicine to be effective, is not going to be a undue risk for liver toxicity.
I think this is a fantastic answer. And not only that, it gives us the insight of what basics one should look at when a study is, conducted or published, and whether it's a study to begin with or whether it's just a survey, as you pointed out. And I completely agree with you that there has to be a causality assessment, which is the basics for evaluating any adverse effects, at least as per the modern nutraceutical and modern medical sciences. So, but I'll come to that later. Yeah, Dr. Bruno.
I would just like to add, this very topic was one that really appealed to me. And I do a couple of podcast series. One of them is the Bioactive Nexus, and my partner, Dr. Bill Clark, and I, we decided we were going to do a whole show on this very issue. And we invited two other highly qualified individuals, Dr. Jacqueline Jacques and Dr. Tim Ziegenfuss, who came and weighed in on this whole issue. And we all basically came to the same conclusion of what I just said. So, just saying.
That's so fantastic. And it definitely substantiates my personal experience as a clinician and my understanding of turmeric. But yes, let's understand from Dr. Raut. Dr. Raut, so Dr. Bruno has just now said what has been talked about, so-called effects of turmeric on liver in the modern science, and sometimes how it is it needs a deeper dive before we come to any conclusion. So what does Ayurveda say about liver? Does Ayurveda say anything about turmeric and its effect on liver? Really, I would like to know what our ancient masters have, what are their words of wisdom?
Absolutely, absolutely. And so, as an Ayurvedic doctor, I would always take any perspective, give any answer based on two things. First of all, the clinical evidence. Of course, in my own practice, I have been practicing here in US at least for 25 years now. And that perspective, as well as, Ayurveda, we have the resources, which is our scriptures, and that perspective also. So in my several years of studying the scriptures, I can definitely say that I have not come across any such caution against turmeric. And in my practice also, in clinical practice also, I have not seen that, I definitely use turmeric in my practice, and I have not seen that. Now, this is definitely, I would say this is no surprise, considering you are in India and see how many people use turmeric every day, and with each meal, in fact. And this is
that
not
includes me also.
Right.
That includes me
This is,
also.
and of course, it includes me as well. And this is not just a one time. It's like now, this is not a fad or something which is started just now. It has been going on for centuries. Correct. And we would have, there could have been any, at least, I don't remember even any side effect or incidence of side effect being reported on this. So, and of course, in Ayurveda, we use turmeric, but in India, it is a household spice, and it is also used in very extensively as a remedial effect also. And it is used for the common cough and cold or the sore throat, for the anti-inflammatory action also, and as well as it's used for the skin, and to bring the cleaning glory and all these luster increasing thing. It's very popular for that as well. And we don't see, I mean, it is being used not just for eating but for many other things also, and it is not. And one thing I must tell you, that actually in Ayurvedic many generic formulations, turmeric is used as a for the formulation of liver disorders. Now what else you want?
Yes.
Right?
That's so
Yes.
interesting. That's so interesting. And I'm so excited to have this discussion. Here's Dr. Bruno telling us that, how to deep dive into the modern research and really take a, closer look at what is being really studied and talked. And here is like a clinician who is saying that in her decades of experience of a clinical practice, which sits, I think, and I'm sure it sits on the top of all evidence. She has not come across any side effects of turmeric. Forget about its effects, like side effects on liver. And what can be more interesting than turmeric being used for liver disorders? So I'm so amazed. I think in the beginning of this talk, I mentioned that modern nutraceutical science and Ayurveda, they often digress. I'm not able to see any digression here. I think they're all the time converging, because a science in its very meaning is meant for the benefit and betterment of mankind, of every living being, I would say. And that's why I'm not able to see any digression. And that gives me an amazing feeling today talking to you both. So thanks for this clarification. And my next question is to Dr. Bruno. So, Dr. Bruno, there's a growing trend in formulation development, in which people are using subtherapeutic doses, and they're combining with say ingredients like piperine. So, and then they call it a meaningful innovation. So, can you share your views on that?
Yeah. So people who have known me for years know that I have what I like to call my soapbox issue, meaning I stand up on the soapbox and preach that which is so important to me. And what I say is use clinically relevant doses of the nutraceutical shown in human research to be effective. If you're going to tell me you can use a subtherapeutic dose as long as you combine some piperine with it, okay, show me the studies you conducted in which subtherapeutic doses were used with piperine and you had good effects. All right. If not, you have no data. I actually have a t-shirt that says, without data, you're just another person with an opinion. And
Wow,
I would agree also.
you have to
I love
have
this.
data. It's not like, oh, it just makes sense. Of course, it works that way. No, that's not science. That is marketing. That's marketing. All right. And I believe in real science, not marketing science. All right. So, no, absolutely not. You don't put a subtherapeutic dose, toss in something like piperine and go, oh, well, now it's absorbed so much better, so you only need this small amount. If you have a study that shows that, one or more, okay, that's worthy of consideration. But if you don't, well, that's just a load of bull, is what that is. So no, I'm not at all in support of that kind of strategy or subtherapeutic doses of any nutraceutical for that matter.
Absolutely. And I think I could not agree with you more, because if you really want to uh, advise something for the consumers with confidence, I think, and I'm sure it has to be tried and tested in the human clinical studies. And the dose substantiation, I think, is of paramount importance in the modern science and
Yes.
in the evidence-based science. So if you don't do those substantiation, then how do you even, support what you are trying to promote? So yes,
That's right.
absolutely on the same page again. And my one more question to you, Dr. Bruno, in the same line, is that not only turmeric, but there are so many supplements which are being, tried and being combined with piperine. So what is your take on use of so much of widespread use of piperine for long-term consumption?
So let me answer that question in this way. When you look at piperine and you look at how does it improve bioavailability, and you read some of the data on it, they talk about a few different mechanisms of action, but two of them stand out to me. One is described as improving permeability by altering membrane dynamics at the absorption site. What does that mean? That means it's creating a localized irritation in the gut, which then improves permeability and you can absorb more of that active component. Well, it probably does work that way. But the problem is you don't want to have an increase in gut permeability in general. That's not necessarily overall desirable. You may be absorbing other kinds of compounds that aren't desirable as well. Now, if you're using a little bit of piperine once in a while together with it, all right. But what if you're using it every day? Wait a minute. Now let's say you're using it every day, not just with turmeric, but now you're using it every day with several other nutraceuticals. How much are you getting? Now what's happening? Now what's the effect? But wait, there's more. Because if you look at some of another mechanism, piperine inhibits enzymes that metabolize drugs. These include the cytochrome P450 enzymes and some others. Now, what does that do? Well, it can increase the amount of the drug available in the body. So let's say you are taking a prescription drug, and let's say you have an impact in your cytochrome P450 enzymes. That could go a couple of different ways, one of which is it may cause you not to metabolize that drug, which in fact would increase the drugs present in the serum at a higher level, which isn't a good thing. It could also cause a situation where you metabolize the drug more quickly, in which case you have less of the drug, which is not a good thing. All right. So, I mean, that's why you have warnings against the use of certain things like grapefruit juice with prescription medications, because that can cause a problem. Now, when you look at these two different mechanisms of action of piperine, and I'm not trying to paint piperine with a red brush saying it's a horrible thing. It's not, but it has to be used appropriately. All right. We heard earlier from our esteemed clinician that when you that the use of this traditionally is in limited amounts for a limited period of time. I'm fine with that. I'm less comfortable with doing something like that every single day. When I've had people come to me to ask me to formulate a product for their company, which I do get quite often, and when they've come to me and asked about using turmeric with piperine, I've always steered them away from it. I just don't think it's a good idea on an ongoing basis. I don't like the potential of what it can do in the gut, not to mention the liver for cytochrome P450 enzymes. So, I would say that's my answer to your question.
Absolutely. And I just, my thinking got focused on one point that you mentioned, Dr. Jean, that piperine causes gut irritation and it works on the gut receptors also. We know that from modern research. Dr. Ashlesha, I would like to draw your attention to what Acharya Charak has said about people being vidahi. Don't you agree with me?
Absolutely. I mean, when he was talking,
So,
I had this same thing in my
exactly.
mind that it is like
Yes.
they have already knew this And that has been,
Absolutely.
now we are understanding in a different perspective, and more from
Yeah.
the pharmacological aspect of it, and how pharmacodynamics happen actually inside, and it is being written and given in such a simple one word. So there is
Absolutely.
no doubt about it.
So,
Yeah, I mean, it is true. If you would ask me from Ayurvedic perspective, it is all otherwise in Ayurvedic word also it is seen Vidahi, which will irritate, the Agni or the digestive fire will increase more. And what we understand in that aspect is it can be a irritant, and that's why it is not to be used in the long term.
Can I add something to this? One of the things I'm seeing, a practice that I'm seeing, which I find very disturbing, is um, while there have been studies, some studies, on the use of piperine together with specific nutraceuticals to demonstrate improved bioavailability, piperine is being used with many, many nutraceuticals in which there's never been a study to show improved bioavailability. It's almost like, oh, we need to do something different. We need to make this interesting. Let's toss in some piperine. So now we can make claims about bioavailability, despite the fact they don't even necessarily have any research showing that the nutraceutical they're using with it is going to have improved bioavailability. And so I've seen some companies putting it in almost every formula they have. And that's a big mistake.
If you can allow me to add one more thing, and I
sure.
think Dr. Bruno, you will really, I want to tell you this since you brought this topic, and believe me, my MD dissertation was on pipali. Okay, that is piper longum, and it was not only on pipali; it was about the one of the methodology how Ayurveda enhances the potency of the product, right? And so we have this product which we call it as a Sausashta Pipali, which means the 64 times you treat the Pipali, that Piperlongum, with its own decoction, and then see the study and see that what really enhances. And to your great surprise, actually piperine was not increasing. So I checked it
Wow.
and I used all modern things where like methods which can prove this, and it was to our surprise also when I was working on that from the first like as a raw pipali, and that is the Tausashta pipali, which is the formulated 64 times titerated with the same its own decoction, piperine does not increase in that. So there is not necessary that to enhance its quality you have to have the piperine. I mean, of course my conclusion was that herb as a whole to be used, as it was my
Yeah.
MD dissertation. But my point is it is still gives these kind of other outputs also.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So I think what I just said before this question, the sciences are converging and they are in synergy. Only we need to really have an eye for it, instead of just taking a very superficial view at it and then trying various experiments which are not going to help anybody. So I think we could just go on with this discussion, and it is so interesting. I'm sure we are going to connect again. But let me ask you one final question to both of you. So, Dr. Bruno and Dr. Raut. So I'll first come to Dr. Bruno. What is it that one thing you would like to advise to for modern formulators? One piece of advice from you before they formulate the products for nutraceuticals.
Well, this isn't going to come as a surprise based on what I've already said. But my one piece of advice would be use clinically relevant doses of the correct forms of the nutraceuticals shown in human research to be effective. Don't fairy dust, meaning putting a little bit at subclinical doses that don't work. And don't use excessive doses. More isn't always better. Use the doses shown to be effective. Do it correctly. You're likely to have a much better product with a much greater capacity to work, to do the thing that you're intending it to do.
Absolutely. And Dr. Raut, you have done your master's in Ayurvedic formulations and you are a clinician. So, with decades of experience, what is your one little small advice for the modern formulators from Ayurveda perspective?
Well, Ayurveda describes a vast treasure of methodologies and advantages of the myriad formulations, which really starts from one single herb and just a powder, mixing of those powders, or maybe using some juices and of those herbs, and directly, right from there it goes up to very complex herbo mineral metallic preparations. And of course, talking about that is a far way beyond of scope of this today's discussion. However, I must say this, that looking at current scenario, what is being like how the Ayurveda's acceptance, Ayurvedic herbs acceptance and popularity has been increasing, I must say that the most important aspect of for the formulations to be taken, like one has to take a little bit a step back and re-evaluate the combinations for the herbs which are being marketed without much of a thought being given to these things. There are so many such formulations which are similar. They should have been, actually, we should take a look at it. That's what I would suggest. And that may give so many other you would, and which are already clinically being tested, you could say, and people are using it again for the centuries, like vaidyas like me are definitely using for the centuries, not just me, my generation, but so many other generations they have been also using. So that's what I
Absolutely.
would say.
I think this has been a great conversation. And I thank you both so much for your time, for your patience, and for throwing such great insights into what we should be doing, how we should be having the, clinically validated formulations. So I think both of you came up with the same recommendation, and I think it's a pretty strong recommendation that the formulations, the ingredients which we use should be clinically evidenced. It should be evidence based. It should be clinically tested, and then only substantiated to take it further to the consumers. And I think that's a great message for all of us today. I'm sure the audience is going to enjoy thoroughly and get a lot of food for thought, the supplement for thought, should I say that. So with that, I would like to thank you both once again for your time, for your thoughts, and for your great insights into Ayurveda and nutraceuticals. And I wish you both a great day ahead. Thanks a lot. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.